We, of course, have been watching the Diddy trial closely. Court was not in session today, so we thought today would be a good day to recap the week so far and to look ahead to the week in court next week. It's going to be starting on Tuesday. There won't be any court on Monday. TMZ's Michael Babcock joining me. We spoke moments ago. Here's the conversation. All right, welcome back in Live Now from Fox. I'm Austin Westfall. The second week of testimony in the Diddy trial is in the books, and prosecutors continued to try and prove their racketeering case against Diddy. That was with the help of Kid Cudi this week. Cudi took to the stand on Thursday and told the jury about a couple of incidents from his love triangle with Cassie and Diddy, including a break-in at his home and a Molotov cocktail dropped in his Porsche. TMZ's Michael Babcock is here. What I want to do, Michael, is catch the folks up that perhaps weren't paying attention to the trial this week. Let's first start off with recapping what happened in the past 4 days. What did we miss if we weren't paying attention?
Hey, Austin, thanks for having me. Yeah, I mean, really interesting testimony. I think most people probably were really eagerly anticipating to hear from Cassie, which was last week, but the Kid Cudi testimony was fascinating to hear. I know we're probably going to get into that. So separate of Cudi, we heard from a couple of people, to include the Homeland Security agent who was actually in charge, Austin, of the raid, the Star Island raid, the Miami raid of Diddy's home, talking about some of the things that they found during that raid, how they specifically planned the timing to coincide with Diddy not being home so there would be no interference. And they talked about finding everything from the baby oil, which has obviously been talked about ad nauseum, to drugs and guns, ammunition, parts of guns with serial numbers scratched off. So they talked about all of those things that were found. We heard from a hotel manager who talked about running a place in Beverly Hills that Diddy would frequently stay at, and talked about Diddy's reputation, that they had literally made notes on his profile that when Diddy would make a reservation, when he would check out, they would actually block off that room for a period of time because they had seen so many times that Diddy's room needed a deep cleaning after he had, again, checked out of the room. They talked about the fact that there would be a melted candle wax all over the room. And again, that they would really need to do a deep cleaning. Now, the implication here being that these are some of the locations he had these freak-off parties, and candle wax is part of, if you've heard any of this prior testimony here, some of the things that allegedly went on. They would take an extra $1,000 deposit from Diddy because that's how much effort had to go into cleaning the room. We heard from executive assistants who testified to getting guns for Diddy and to driving around and looking for Suge Knight with Diddy, presumption being that he was going to confront Suge in some violent interaction. So there's been a little bit of everything, all of it trying to point, though, to Austin that this guy he's not just a bad boyfriend, he's not just a domestic abuser, but is somebody who was essentially running a criminal enterprise, and that would then make him guilty of that racketeering charge.
I alluded to it at the top, but why are we starting to hear Kid Cudi's name involved in this?
So Cassie talked about this when she was on the stand. She had a brief romantic relationship with Kid Cudi late 2011. Now, Cudi, when he gets onto the stand the day before yesterday, he says, look, I feel like I've been played by Cassie. I was in love with her. I was really very much into her, despite the fact that this was a relatively short relationship in time. But it sounded like it was pretty serious. And he said, Cassie kind of broke my heart here. But there was some it was a love triangle that got pretty intense for Cudi. So there was one story that he tells when he's on the stand, Austin. He gets a call from Cassie in December of 2011, very early in the morning, 5:30 or so in the morning. Cassie is frantic on the phone, and she says, Diddy just found out about us. He is really upset, and he knows where you live, and I'm worried that he's going to go and confront you and do something. So Cudi ends up leaving the house where he was in L.A., Austin, and he goes and he picks Cassie up. He gets a call a short time later from somebody who works for Diddy saying, hey, I'm outside of your house right now, and Diddy's inside. Cudi, what is this guy doing in my house? He calls Diddy. He's obviously very angry about this. And he said Diddy was very calm, and he says, no problem. I just want to have a conversation with you. That happens. Now you fast forward to January of 2012. The relationship with Cassie has run its course. he gets a call, Cuddy does, that his Porsche is on fire. What do you know it? Somebody had actually cut into the roof, the convertible roof of the Porsche, and dropped a Molotov cocktail onto his driver's seat, which burned the car. He calls the police. The police take an arson report. They investigate, but they're never able actually to link it back to Diddy. But Cuddy has long felt that it was Diddy who did that, or somebody at Diddy's order who had did this to his car. And it obviously just kind of underscores how crazy of a situation that this allegedly was.
When is the next day of court, and what do we expect in the week ahead?
So they were off today, a long weekend. Obviously, Memorial Day on Monday, they will be off as well. So we're going to resume on Tuesday. We expect to hear from possibly some people from the Los Angeles Police Department. Same thing with the fire department, as well as some people who have worked for Diddy. It does also sound like that we might also hear from some other hotel workers, just because a lot of these alleged freak-offs happen at hotels. So these workers can testify to some of the things that they might have seen over the years as these parties were going on. So that's what we can look forward to next week. I don't know that there's going to be a celebrity component like there was this week, but you never know with this trial. It's been crazy so far, and we're nowhere near being done with this thing. We're not even halfway through.
Before we go, can we just put a fine point on something? Why are we not seeing Diddy anywhere? Why are we only looking at paintings of his gray-haired self in court?
Yeah, because it's I guess from an entertainment standpoint, it's unfortunate that because this is a federal case, Austin, there are not cameras allowed in the courtroom, not even still photography. So the best thing we have are these sketches from the court artists, and that's unfortunately all we've got. There's obviously a galley. We've got reporters who are in there, but as far as getting any video from inside of the courthouse, unfortunately, it's not happening. If it were, you can imagine this would probably be Amber Heard and Johnny Depp on steroids. This would be just absolutely watched, I think, every second with bated breath. But federal court, no cameras.
No cameras. All right. The always informative Michael Babcock joining us. Good to see you. Have a good weekend.
Thanks, Austin. You too.